Yeah, they didn't know what song they were going to use.
Yeah.
We just picked one.
Yeah. Which Fishbone song was it?
I think it was Movement in the Light. No, it might have been Turn the Other Way.
Would have been kind of a different theme with the Fishbone song. But like, what, so what was? I mean, when you see that scene though, the first time, do you have this idea that it's going to be this, most iconic scene of the '80s, this kind of thing that's in our, pop culture DNA, or?
No, you just kind of make a good movie.
Yeah.
And but you got a sense that it would be a cool moment.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, you haven't been doing these as long, but what's it like for you? Because now Comic-Con has kind of turned into like, more pop culture, and I know you're kind of a pop culture guy, and even a comic book guy, right?
Yeah. I used to read it growing up.
Yeah. And is it actually true there was like a kind of a mythological rumor that you were attached to play Night Owl in Watchmen?
Never.
No, yeah, that would have been cool then.
Most stuff on IMDb is usually wrong.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if it was true.
Good to know. And so, kind of going back, like, what is your, because I'm sure everyone comes up to you and asks you about things like Say Anything, 16 Candles, and what is your, because at the time you're a kid, you're making these movies, and like you said, you're just trying to make a good movie. You're not thinking like, you're making these movies that are going to live on forever. So, but what is the perspective now looking back on these movies?
It's just really nice that you've been able to make stuff that people want to keep talking about and that they're really fond of.
Yeah.
And luckily for me, I started working in the late '80s, and then I made some stuff when I was a teenager that people liked, and I was lucky enough to make some stuff in the '90s people liked, and then in 2000 I made a couple things people liked. So, and now if I can make a couple more things people like in this decade, and then soon I'll be dead, and then I'll have to live. But it's like every 10 years I'll try to make something decent.
Well, it is interesting you say that, because there were a lot of people that were in those films that didn't figure out how to sustain. You know what I mean? And yeah, they're forever kind of in our pop culture kind of DNA. But you have lived on beyond that. You know what I mean? You've had a great career. You've had so many kind of great films with iconic roles. Yeah. So how did you navigate that and kind of just
I think a lot of it's just luck, and then sometimes it's the right people at the right time. When I was making movies in, let's say, the '90s and early 2000s, there was a guy who ran Disney named Joe Roth, and he was a really good guy, and he gave me the money to let me produce and write High Fidelity and Grosse Pointe Blank. And so that was just because of that guy. And the studios are like super more corporate now.
Yeah.
But he was more like an old school guy. So he would do his big tentpole movies that were like summer movies that people liked, like Con Air or America's Sweetheart.
Yeah.
But then he would also just give a certain number of films he was going to make to artists that he liked. So he let me make 2. He let Spike Lee make Summer of Sand. He let Wes Anderson make Rushmore.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people don't know that. They always say the actors or the directors are the reason things got made. But sometimes it's the environment, because I don't think the studios today, there's no way they would make those movies.
No. High Fidelity and Grosse Pointe Blank, they'd be much smaller movies than any movie. I mean, High Fidelity is
that space is now on cable TV.
Yeah.
The stuff that I used to do in movies has now sort of shifted to cable TV.
As kind of a lovable, isn't here, a-hole, as Rob Gordon is not like, he's a guy who, like, he's not necessarily he doesn't make the best choices in life, and I don't
exactly human.
Yeah, which I think is
like screws up and tries to start over again, does all those things. But there's no way that would be made by a studio.
Yeah, and I love High Fidelity so much because it's really like, it was right pre-hipster culture, you know what I mean? But it's so, you go back and it's like the quote, how can it be bullshit to state a preference, or you guys are the unappreciated scholars, so you shit on the people who know less than you? Like, it's such a history culture movie before that was like a thing.
And it was also, it was actually set in England. The book was set in England, and the difference when I read the book was that the Brits were all obsessed with American soul,
Yeah.
rhythm and blues.
Yeah.
And the guys at our record store in Chicago, and the guys that I grew up with, we were all obsessed with like punk.
Yeah.
And the British stuff.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was the same guys.
I have to ask you, because I know you're a punk new wave guy, and so am I.
I can see the shirt.
I also have Joy Division Unknown Pleasure stock.
That is really peeking out.
It's really nerdy when you're showing your new wave punk undergarments. I gotta ask you, top 5 favorite punk new wave records.
I'm not really a top 5 guy. Can you believe that?
No, I can't.
There's too many things I like.
All right, tell me your favorites then. Yeah.
Well,
jump out.
Clash, The Jam.
Yeah.
Who else? Maybe some other great.
Ramones. You're a Ramones guy?
Yeah, but they're not Brits.
Oh, we're just going Brit?
Thought you wanted Brits. It was your list.
The Fall? The Fall? No? The Cure?
Yeah.
Any others?
Pogues, yeah.
Pogues.
And would you call those Brits? Those are Irish.
The Sex Pistols? Yeah, of course.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Dead Kennedys.
We've gone way over 5.
And there's only a few Brits.
Yeah.
We're all.
It's all right. We're all. That's an awesome crowd. You guys know you're pumping away. Yeah, Rob Gordon. If you think about it, he was breaking the fourth wall before Deadpool made it cool again.
He was, the last time we've seen anybody do that in a film, I thought was Michael Caine.
Yeah.
Really big people, but maybe some of the adults know Michael Caine and Alfie.
Yeah. Ferris Bueller.
Were we first?
Breaking the fourth wall?
Or did they do it?
It was not first, but it was like,
Alright, well maybe they did it first.
Yeah. Here, I have more questions, but we'll get some of your questions. Our first question, appropriately, from Lloydette Doppler.
That's not a question, is it?
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Oh God, I'm great. Much better now. Okay. So I think I can speak for most women up here that Lloyd Dollar was definitely our first boyfriend. So anyway.
Not just women.
No.
Guy crushing.
Tuesday.
Who knew?
I'm sorry. Okay, so I
I'm
guess
married, but
only because, well, you know, anyway. My question is, out of all of the, like, 80s movies, which one would fit your teen years the most?
Well, I was a teen while I was making them, so all of them.
are you kind of asking like which character you would most like?
Well, not even his character. Not even his character, but like out of, 16 handles and say anything, Breakfast Club, whatever, which one?
Why wasn't it in Breakfast Club?
Well, I know. I'm saying which 80s movie?
What you don't know, he's also.
How they go from saying and Breakfast, 16 handles,
What you don't know is he's also a time traveler in the 80s and had a DeLorean, so that would probably fit the best.
Yeah. I would say that one. Boombox.
Yeah. It's funny. I was thinking about Lloyd Dollar, and he's a character that really. It doesn't matter if your generation is the '80s or not. That's what's great about the films of John Hughes and Cameron Crowe, and it's constantly finding new generations as new people become teenagers. Because even though those are very '80s movies, they deal with angst and, first love and things that are just universal when you're that age. And I was thinking about Lloyd Dobler as a character, and he was really like the original cool nerd, you know what I mean? Like, it's cool to be a nerd now, whereas before you had archetypes like Revenge of the Nerds, where, guys didn't show no Oscars, but it's funny to come to these things and see, so many people that were just, that he was a hero for, because he made it cool to kind of be different. And
yeah, well, but I mean, also, like, he was, the character was, we were thinking of it like, you know, if you read Catcher in the Rye, or if you read any great book, it really doesn't matter what, you know, time frame it's about. If you just take the character sort of seriously, and you know, it should sort of stand up. So they got labels about being teen movies, because they just happened to start making movies about teenagers. But you know, we didn't really think about it.
What's your I hosted a thing with Molly Ringwald and asked her a similar question. What is your, you know, Cameron Crowe and John Hughes, I think, had very similar sensibilities in that they were kind of accessing a place from their own kind of teen years. And what's your kind of memory of John, just as a guy? Molly Ringwald said this great story where her favorite memory was showing up on set of The Breakfast Club, and they used to just make mixtapes for each other, which I thought was the coolest thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, when I made that, I was a sophomore in high school when I made that one, and so I was just so happy not to be going to study class. You know, I couldn't believe I was making a film.
Yeah. And
they were making a film in Chicago, so it was very exotic and fun for me. And I only worked about a week on it, just some scenes. But I remember them sort of lying under the camera and smoking Carlton.
Yeah.
Chain smoked Carlton.
Yeah.
No one cared about the cigarette. But a really good guy. He seemed like a really good guy.
Yeah. And in your collaboration with Cameron, you guys, even on that commentary, you can tell that you guys really have, you know, you just had a bond and a friendship.
Yeah, that was a real special one. And that was, you know, that was one that was made because Jim Brooks was the producer and that's back in Cameron. So we didn't have that kind of studio interference with our notes. You know, we didn't have that kind of dynamic there.
Yeah.
That was really good. And then I said, well, if I'm going to do it, I want it to be like a version of my 19 years.
Yeah.
So Cameron was open to, he really wanted me to do it, so we just worked together and tried to make it unique.
Yeah. Also, both those guys had amazing taste in music. Yeah. Hi.
Hi, big fan.
Hi.
You've got such a wide range of movies that you've done. A couple of my favorites are Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. Love the movie. Kevin Spacey's awesome too. I just love that, you know, dynamic between the two of you, as well as serendipity. Do you believe in serendipity? Do you think that's something that's really, you know, present in life, that we're on a path and sometimes you just got to find it?
Yeah, I don't know if you end up with Kate Beckinsale, but yeah, I think there's stuff happens for a reason, for sure. I think let's hope.
And I forgot to ask, we'll get back to go to Chicago. Where's a good place to get a beef sandwich?
A beef sandwich? Al? Chicago Al?
Thanks for bringing up Chicago. So Chicago, you know, you're a Chicago guy. Chicago is one of those cities that obviously, you know, John Hughes really featured and showcased, and it almost became a character in his movie. What do you think, like a Chicago? What's like a Chicago state of mind? What makes that like a special place?
I think it's Midwest vibe. It's sort of a lot like Texas, you know. There's skits, right? There's skits in there, right? Doesn't matter. Like, they don't really talk trash.
Yeah.
They're very direct. I think the Midwest is that way too. That people are very look in the eye, you know, not too impressed with status.
Yeah.
You know, salt and pepper.
Yeah.
The people from Chicago and the Midwest and Toronto, and they seem to be pretty cool people.
Thanks.
Hey, man. How's it going? Good, man. Thanks for asking. Hope the same for you. 1408 was a rocking movie. You rocked it in that one. Thank you. You got Cell coming out later this year. Totally different ends of the spectrum as far as story, and I'm guessing the way that you portray them. You know what I mean? Which did you prefer more, enjoy more?
Well, I haven't seen the Cell because I haven't seen it, so I really can't vouch for its quality. But 1408, I was involved with, and that was very faithful to Stephen King's short story, and a really good experience.
Thanks.
While we're on the kind of subject of naming off movies, there's a movie that is one of my all-time favorite movies, and I'm not sure too many people have seen it, but Capehead is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Swanky Mode.
Swanky Mode. That's another movie that, like, it just couldn't get made. You know what I mean? It was such a video generation movie, and it was kind of one of the first movies about guys who were movie nerds before, you know, Kevin Smith made Clerks, and, you know, before that was kind of a thing.
That's Michael Nesmith.
Yeah.
The former Monkey was the executive producer. And he's a very cool guy. And Peter McCarthy, who also made Repo Man.
Yeah.
And produced Sid and Nancy. So that was another cool thing.
Yeah.
That was like when they used to say, like, you're going to make indie movies. And indie movies meant, like, weird, renegade movies that had no connection to the studio.
Yeah.
Now, like, an indie movie is just the division of Sony.
Right.
You know, where they spend a lot of money for the Oscars, right?
Yeah.
But I'm talking about indie movies where it's like has nothing to do with the studios.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are some fun days.
Yeah, that was you and Tim Robbins. So it felt like you guys were making kind of an indie renegade movie, huh?
Yeah, it's like the indie label was sort of just co-opted by the studios.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, it's like I put up there.
But like Tangerine, there's some movies that are out there that are really independent for some of those films, you know, that are being made just by people going out with an iPhone and making a film. Or, you know, putting together $500,000 and making something.
Yeah, yeah. If they made Capehead today, you guys would be like Snapchat stars or something. You know what I mean? Like they were. It was like really. It was perfect, kind of right when MTV came out. And yeah, if you guys have not seen Capehead, you should definitely go watch it. Hi.
I was wondering, how did you feel about playing Ed Ralston on The Raven?
I liked doing it a lot. It was great to research him and research his letters and like, you know, if you played somebody that was alive and was that prolific, you can always go back to that source, you know. So you could always get into his writing and really immerse yourself. So I felt that. But it was a kind of a dark headspace to be in, but it was also kind of cool. And I don't know if I want to stay there.
Thank you.
Danny, are you getting like weird feedback? Is that like messing with you?
Feedback here?
From the mic check.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Is it messing with you?
No.
Okay. As long as you're okay.
If you could go back and play any of your characters again, which one would it be, and what would you do with that character?
Like differently?
Like differently, or how would you make them continue to evolve and grow?
Are you asking which ones sucked that I would make better?
Not necessarily.
Or like,
Come on, what do you ask?
No, not at all.
or like which character would you like to play again to see how he went on?
Which one did you have the most fun with, or which would you go back and change a bit?
I don't really know what I go back. I tend not to look back so much, which is odd, but because I seem to talk about that stuff a lot in public. But yeah, I don't tend to like look back. But there's other films that got like cut the wrong way, you think, or weren't as good as they could have been. But it would be fun to do a reprove of a character I've already done, but you also don't want to screw it up. Like the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to see the Danny sequel where he went on to become a professional kickboxer. Just a totally different movie where he's like fighting Jean-Claude Van Damme. I'd watch the shit out of that today.
You can do that.
You still kickbox?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what came first? Chicken or egg? Were you into kickboxing first? Or?
I was into boxing, and then I met Benny Urquidez when I was working on that film, and then got into kickboxing, and then stayed into both.
Such a great scene when you're heard of kickboxing, and there's just no one has any idea that in their table what kickboxing is.
Yeah, it's like ridiculous. But then I went back to with Benny and did this big thing with Jackie Chan called Dragon Blade.
Oh, so dude, that movie is If you guys, honestly, Dragon Blade is such a fun.
I don't know what happened with the American version. I don't know because it was a Chinese language movie with English as the thing. It was like a big, Marvel summer movie.
Yeah.
And then I think the American cut. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that. Like I don't know what they did to it. I didn't see it, but
You can get your hands on the Chinese version, which is the version I saw. And
yeah.
But
There's
some
really good, weird,
Yeah.
crazy fight scenes with Jackie.
Yeah. Awesome. Hi.
Hi. Are there any roles that you didn't play but would have loved the chance to do so?
Yeah, but I don't know what they are because I didn't. No one told me about it. Yeah. Like someone kept asking me if I was supposed to be Walter White in Breaking Bad, and I was like, no. Why would I want? But I can't even think of anybody but Bryan Cranston. So why would I want anybody else to have his great role? Because he rocked it.
Thanks.
So I don't want to miss.
Speaking of AMC TV shows, there's something going around that you saying you want to be on The Walking Dead.
Well, I love zombie movies. I love George Romero's zombie movies.
Yeah.
I like the good ones, and I like sci-fi and horror. But it's hard to get really good ones. But yeah, I like Walking Dead.
Yeah. Okay. I would love. What would you want to be on Walking Dead? I can't even ask that question without laughing.
I know. I don't know.
Just a zombie with a boombox over there.
Yeah, you have to. I know it's coming.
Yeah.
I was just gonna let you take that one.
That'd be great. I love that.
Being an actor is my dream job, so do you have any words of wisdom?
Don't do it!
Do plays. So learn.
Good advice.
Hi, Jeff Patrick, James Mirabeth.
Hey man, how are you?
How are you? First of all, John, love everything you've done, but I think one of your probably most underrated roles is Buck Weaver. I love.
Oh, thanks.
I've noticed that you and Joan, your sister, do a lot of movies together. But I've also noticed the name Dick Cusack in some of the films. I was wondering if that was your father or if that was related to you.
Yeah, it was my father. He wrote one I did called Jacko, which we made for HBO. This is kind of a cool western. Two guys saw it.
Have you other family friends or childhood friends you put in some of your movies?
Yeah, I used to get as many people as I could get away with.
Viven's an old friend, right? Yeah.
But he was in a couple of them, and I worked with some friends.
Oh my God, there's nothing like Viven in Say Anything.
Yeah, he's funny.
Oh my God, he's so funny. I mean, bitches, man.
Hi, I'm Meredith.
Hi, Meredith.
I was wondering, out of all the movies you've made in the past, which one did you enjoy making the most and why?
Well, I think some of I would think Con Air was pretty fun because it was just a bunch of crazy actors, and there was just too much testosterone, and we were in Las Vegas, and there wasn't really any adult supervision. And you could stay up all night. It was like, that was like a pretty wild one. But then some of the ones that I wrote and produced that I could, see through all the way and make sure they were good. I tend to look back on those more fondly.
High Fidelity and Direct Point seem like they were both pretty special labors of love to you.
Yeah, and that was, but we had a good guy at the studio.
Yeah.
Hey, John.
Hey, man.
I was going to ask, if you weren't an actor, what would you be? Like, what are you interested in?
I would probably be, I could write, which I still sort of do, or if I could hit a curveball, I would have done that. But I can hit a fastball if I know it's coming. But when they start throwing breaking pitches off speed, I can't handle it.
You wouldn't want to be a professional kickboxer?
No, I can box, but I don't know if it would be so smart to be a boxer.
Yeah.
Because, you get hit.
Yeah, true.
And it hurts. But I do it for fun.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, I was wondering which movie had your favorite soundtrack?
Oh, that's a good question.
I would say Grosse Pointe or High Fidelity.
It's Grosse Pointe. From what I
I also like take those songs.
yeah.
So they would be my favorite.
Good. There was lots of good, lots of good violent film stuff on that, and that was a good soundtrack, man. That's a fun movie because it's interesting to see you essentially kind of grow up on screen in the '80s, and then to make a movie about like where you're a guy kind of going back to his '80s high school reunion. That felt really fun.
Yeah, and the only way I would go to my high school reunion was if I had to do it as research.
That's right. I heard you guys like had a bet, and then you lost and had to go, right?
I said, if we get the money to do the film, I'll go.
That had to be miserable for you.
It was pretty funny.
Was it?
Yeah. Well, we put a lot of it in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that movie is just you. They just filmed you going to your high school reunion.
Sort of.
Except less you killing people.
I didn't throw anyone in a furnace.
That's good. Just typically frowned upon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you, first of all, Mr. Cusack, for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. I'm actually kind of scared because I originally read this on IMDb, but I checked it on johncusack.net, which may be fabricated as well.
Yeah. Who knows who that is?
Don't believe anything you read on the internet, basically.
No, I think it's all mostly bullshit.
Well, I've read before that you have said that you feel you haven't created that piece of art yet that you want to. And if that is true, which film have you made so far that you feel comes closest?
I don't really know. You can't really tell, but I mean, the nice thing is that people still are talking about films, that I made a while ago. So I think you need time to sort of let people live with a film, and if it's good and people find things in it, then it starts to, live a little bit. So it seems like I've made a few that people like, so I'm pretty lucky.
And you still can't tell when a film comes out. I mean, yeah, we are very much a society of instant gratification, but stuff still finds an audience and lives on. I mean, people are still, that's the cool thing about film, is you can make a film at any point, and it can still find an audience. It doesn't matter,
And sometimes the films that are the most hyped, and 3 or 4 years later, everyone's like, what? What was that? And then movies that came out that didn't quite get recognition right away become people's favorites.
Yeah, there's a long list of movies that are just iconic films that were just completely, obliterated.
Savaged by critics.
Absolutely.
And then later on, people like them. So
Yeah.
you have to really take the long view, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
You were in this film called Love and Mercy a couple years ago that I loved. And I thought it was a really different role for you. So I was curious if there's something that drove you to really want to play that role.
Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys.
Well, that was just like, to play someone who was a real genius and is still alive and who shaped pop culture the way he did was a kind of a, if you're not going to want to do something like that, it's probably good to get out of the business. And it was being made by, a producer that was making really high-end movies that kind of, with a decent budget, with great people, and those movies aren't really made too much by studios, so it was just a great thing to do all around. And I think it was scary to play Brian because he went through such a tough time, but, it's one thing to be talented at something, but, you think of guys like him or maybe Bob Dylan, and you think that maybe they can't get the song out of their head. It's not like, oh my God, I hear music, but like, what if you can't turn it off? So they're, it's more about the burdens of that kind of genius and talent. So, and Brian and Melinda are great people, and they're still here, and he's still touring. So, it was a real challenge to make them happy. I think they were happy with the film, so that made me feel proud.
Awesome, thank you.
Hey.
Hi, my name is Teresa, and first I want to say I am a fan of yours from this decade. Who else can drive a badass limo the way you did in 2012? But my question for you is, you were a childhood actor transitioning into an adult actor. How did you handle that pressure in Hollywood?
Well, a lot of times I wasn't there, because I would go back to Chicago, or I'd do some plays there, and have theater company there, and I would do stuff. But I was never that impressed by just celebrity, so like I always wanted to try to do good films, and then so I wasn't that interested in being famous, so I think that throws people for a loop and makes them do bad work sometimes, and then they remember what they got into it for. But I think I was just lucky. I lived in Chicago and just luck.
And that's a lot about what the Cronenberg film you were in is kind of about. The themes of that film about Hollywood and the kind of seedy underbelly and
Yeah, that's a vicious movie.
yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
If you could play any superhero or villain, who would you play and why?
Okay, you're gonna get this question at a Comic-Con. You should come up with a really good answer. If you could play any superhero or super villain, who would you play?
Do you have any suggestions? I don't know who's left.
I really like the Flash or Arrow.
That would be good. But I don't know what the arrow does.
You kind of just shoot arrows.
I'm looking for something a little heavier than just shoot arrows.
Yeah.
I want to get like some superpower.
You're gonna end up. It's bound to happen.
What about like like psychic kind of wizardry?
Well, Doctor Strange is taken.
That's right.
Although you would have made a pretty badass Doctor Strange. I don't know. We're literally.
Which one?
Karate Kid from the Legion. I don't know that one. I mean, it's bound to happen. I mean, the caliber of that's what's cool is comic book films have gone from essentially low art to high art, which is the art that they took, that comic books themselves took. You know what I mean? So you'll end up in one at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah, I like the Frank Miller ones, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like a lot of them.
I'm gonna play the really good spirit.
I think, why not?
Yeah. Why not? All right. That was my wife.
She had that question. She wanted me to also ask you.
She could have asked you questions. It's not like he wants to be a millionaire or he only.
What is the weirdest encounter you've ever had with a fan?
This one.
Well, I had a lot. I had a lot of them, but I think the strangest one was I was actually in LA and I was driving around with like the fishbone guys. Yeah. And I'd forgotten to pay like a parking ticket or a speeding ticket. Not because I was wanting to be an outlaw, but just because I was like an idiot. Didn't do it, right? And so I think the cops saw me driving around in a expensive car and didn't recognize me because I hadn't done that much stuff with a bunch of brothers, and they just said, pull them over. And so they said, oh, they took me to prison, and they handcuffed me and took me to prison. Like, no way. And they said, oh, you didn't pay a speeding ticket, we're going to take you in. And so it was the middle of the day, and so they chained me to a bench. And that guy next to me was like, you know, I got a script. I want to tell you about it. And I was like, this is literally celebrity hell.
Yeah.
I got like a fascist cop who's like chaining me up, and then I got like a really, drunk weirdo wanting to talk about a script, and I couldn't go anywhere.
Well, now
You didn't go like that. This is so interesting. This is hell.
and that's how you made 2012. You can't tell us that story and not tell us what his idea was.
It's just one of those things like, I got a script and there's an idea, but like, how do you get into this?
There's literally nowhere in LA that you can escape what you have. Even when you're chained up in jail.
But he was chained and he was drunk, so it was not a good situation.
Oh my gosh.
Hi there. Hey, I was wondering, you talked to one of the other fans about doing plays. What are some of the plays that you've been in that you enjoyed the most, and are there any that you're currently interested in performing right now?
I read this one that I like called The Prank. It's an Arthur Miller one, but most of that was producing and directing plays in Chicago, so I just think a lot of times people, they want to act, but they might just want to be famous. So if they want to act, it's like playing basketball, right? You can talk about playing basketball all you want, but you got to go like dribble and like, you know, learn how to pass, and learn how to shoot, and learn how to play defense. And you can't really do that by just auditioning or thinking you want to perform. So when you do a play, you're actually learning the craft. You're learning how to play the language, you learn to do all these things. So I think a lot of people, if they want to be actors, it's like, let's go act. Like, that's why a lot of good actors come from soap operas, because at least they get a chance to work with text. And it might be the same thing, and at the end of the day, you know, the guy breaks up with the girl, and the music swells, but they're getting used to being in front of the camera and working with text. So like Julianne Moore started on, I think, All My Children or something, or General Hospital. So you just need a chance to work. So that's why I said do a play.
Hi.
Hi.
All right, we got time for a couple more questions.
You're a unicorn.
You are a pink unicorn.
This is kind of a silly question, but
No.
do you remember Better Off Dead?
Yeah.
And if you don't, get $2.
Yeah, he was about your size.
What's probably the line that gets shouted at you, like, hey, you're a guy? What's that line?
That one, but you know, I'm lucky because I get shouted out from almost every decade now. So yeah, if it was just one decade, you know, it might be kind of weird, but I get them from different decades.
Can I ask you, do you remember the cell audit process monologue, speech line?
Yeah.
I know it. I know it too.
Yeah.
No, I know it.
I wrote that with Kim.
You wrote it. Really?
Okay.
Can I do it and you can,
Yeah.
Can I do it?
You want me to go get his dress and come back?
What? What do they say?
They don't care. They said they're here for me, man.
All right.
They don't want you.
So what you're saying is you want John to do it?
No. They don't want you to like. They want you to like. She wants you to stop saying you want to do that monologue, man.
I'm really secretly trying to get you to do it, but okay.
Hi.
Hi.
So you said that about being scared to have to take over a character. So what was it like to have to take on the character in 1408?
That was crazy. I mean, you know, it was more of a guy who's sort of daring the ghosts to come get after him. So that was pretty fun. So it wasn't like he was, even though he was ready for it, he wasn't ready for it. But that was a pretty tricky headspace for me too.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's more like Rob Serling rather than like, it was more like mind-bending horror than it was.
Yeah, it's very Twilight Zone.
Yeah, very Twilight Zone, which is different than, you know, the darkness of some, you know, really, really dark.
Yeah.
There's something fun about it, even though.
Yeah. It's that whole allegory of like the room and the mind kind of thing. Yeah. Hi.
Hi. I've kind of been a fan all through the decades, and I grew up with you and everything like that, but I really became a fan after being John Malkovich. And I was wondering what it was like to work with John Malkovich. Did you learn anything from him?
Oh, yeah, well, I've known John, was a great admirer of his, you know, from when he was in Chicago, Steppenwolf, and I'd seen him on stage and film, so I was a great admirer of his, and I'd worked with him before on Con Air, and he was hilarious. I worked with him in a Woody Allen film, Shadows and Fog, and then Con Air, and then by that, and he was just so funny. He just called me and said, you know, you have to do this movie because, you know, it's so fucking mean, and it's mean about me, but you know, fuck it, I am an asshole. I mean, you have to do this movie. It's just so funny. And he just took the butt of every joke on him. And then Charlie Goffin came up to him when we were shooting. He said, oh, John, I'm a big fan. And he just said, Charlie, you don't have to do that. So that was a really fun movie to make. Great script, I tried it well. Really cool.
That was like the perfect kind of movie, the perfect time when indie film was really coming to the forefront. You made The Ice Harvest as well with Daryl Brandis, which was a great film.
Yeah, that seems to be getting people, that's one of
Double Circuit.
yeah, they didn't sort of get it, but it's got a, you know, maybe it's because, you know, Harold Ramis passed away.
Yeah.
You know, he's a great, terrific filmmaker, a great career. They're sort of looking back on the
Yeah.
films. And it's just, you know, Billy Bob was really funny in it.
Yeah.
He had a really dark comic noir on it.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
All right, we have time for, are we wrapping up here? Okay, we got it. Last question. This is probably the moment of your life. Do not mess it up.
No, you can have two.
Oh, thank you. Actually, kind of piggybacking off the other question, I was really interested. You've had the opportunity to work with so many different actors throughout the whole catalog of your film career. And I was curious, has there been anyone you haven't worked with that you would like to work with in the future?
Yeah, there's so many people. You know, there's directors and actors and writers. So it seems like there's so many good ones that I haven't had a chance to work with. But I've been so lucky that I got to work with a lot of my heroes growing up. So.
Thank you so much. All right, so there's only a few more. Can we do this like rapid fire? Like rapid fire, because I feel bad turning you guys away. All right, here we go. Rapid fire.
I just wanted to say that the best movie that I saw last year, and I just don't because Star Wars, but was Chirac. And you were so great in it, and I was curious about, you know, performing with the meter and the beat and working with Mike, and if that subject matter is important to you.
Yeah, I got to play a guy named, based on the father, Mike Flavin in Chicago. And even right now, there's been, I think, 1,400 people shot in the south and west side of Chicago. So I think Spike was making the movie for really good reasons and trying to get it out. So we all just got after it. And everything I said in that movie, Father Mike Flavin said on the pulpit. And it's like, everybody comes to his church. You can be black, white, Muslim, gay, straight. I mean, everybody comes in and he just tells the truth. So he was a real cool guy to be around. Like, really interesting person.
Thank you. Rapid fire.
I do theater, and I'm actually directing a show that I was in when I was a kid. So I'm asking, in the day of like the remake, is there one of your movies that you would want to remake, you would be okay with remaking, and you would want to direct?
I don't think one of my movies could remake without me in it. I don't really know. I seem to be, I sort of look forward more than back.
Thank you.
Number one criterion to look forward to screenplay to do a project.
Well, first, I'll look to see if my bank account is funny. Because the way it works is, and I'm sure you guys know this or can figure it out, is you sort of have to do something for money to pay the bills to develop the movies. It takes a couple of years to make that you do for less money. So sometimes you're just going to take something as good as you can get it, and it'll pay you some money, and then sometimes if you're lucky and you get you can pick and choose, then you just look for great writing, But those are pretty easy to see, like you can get your hands on it, or if somebody wants you, or if you've written something that's good, and people usually recognize it.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, you mentioned Texans being straightforward, so who are you dating?
Who am I dating? A girl doesn't kiss and tell.
Oh, this is perfect. All right, last question. Oh my gosh, this is awesome.
What was your hardest role that you ever played in a movie?
Oh, that was a great question. Nice job.
Well, when I had to go to the desert last summer, and I had to fight Jackie Chan and like about 10,000 Chinese soldiers, and it was really hot, and I didn't speak their language, and I was really tired. But then I got in shape on the movie. because I was working on something before. But that was physically pretty intense.
Awesome. Huge round of applause for Mr. John Cusack.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you guys so much. You've been a great audience, and enjoy the rest of Fan Expo.